Sorry about that. Yeah, we are online here, so I guess we should use the microphones. So I'll call to order the meeting for September 18th, NPC, and it is at 5:01. So thank you everyone for being here. Appreciate that. And I will look for adoption of the agenda. Is there any additional items to be added? Member Kent.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you for that. Anything from yourself? No? All right. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. All right. Next item on our agenda is the adoption of the minutes from the September 4th meeting. Any errors or omissions that you noticed? Someone wasn't there, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, I move that we adopt the minutes from September 4th, 2024 meeting.
Thank you, Member Contenti. All those in favor? Approved. Thank you. We will move on to our first item on our agenda is multiple housing development with variances, and Senior Development Officer Kirk will be presenting.
Thank you, Chairperson Gullickson. Right, so item 4.1 is a multiple housing development with variances at 5432 55th Avenue. So multiple housing development means two or more buildings containing one or more dwelling units located on a parcel where all of the building structures, recreational areas, vehicle areas, landscaping, and all other features have been planned as an integrated development. So this property is zoned R4, which is the residential mixed district. The R4 provides an area for residential development, including well-designed compatible infill development offering a mix of lower and medium density forms of residential housing types, as well as limited set of compatible uses. The property is also located within the downtown area redevelopment plant overlay, specifically the central residential district. The general purpose of that overlay is to regulate the development of major additions and new infill in a manner that is compatible with the scale and character of the existing area. Administration supports the application. So the Commission's decision tonight is on a discretionary use development permit with a 10% front yard setback variance, a 22% driveway width variance, a variance to allow for excessive repetition between dwelling units within close proximity to each other, to waive the requirement for a loading space, and to waive the requirement for a bicycle rack. 16 property owners were notified. We received one response in support and one response in opposition. So the support, they just said, I support the application. Administration doesn't have a response to that. And as for the opposition, we had ones regarding aesthetic and incompatibility concerns. So an overdevelopment larger than the existing developments on the street and excessive concrete driveways. Administration's response is that the proposal complies with several land use bylaw regulations such as parcel coverage, height, parking, landscaping, and side and rear setbacks, and the applicant is requesting a 10% front yard setback variance. The development is proposed to be identical to the immediately adjacent development, and it's not larger than existing ones on the street. And the applicant is requesting a 22% driveway width variance, and the land use bylaw does require that driveways be hard surfaced when they're entering from a hard surface road. There were setback concerns, so the building encroaches closer to the street than allowed by zoning. Administration's response is that the proposal complies with side and rear setback requirements, but the applicant is requesting that 10% front yard setback variance. The foundation itself is located in accordance with the land use bylaw, but it's the veranda that requires that 10% variance. There were concerns regarding traffic and congestion. So the neighborhood already contains high density developments. Allowing more will impact traffic and parking. The existing tenants and guests use street parking on the south side of the street, and there will be an increased number of tenants and guests, which will further strain parking availability. Administration's response is that the property is zoned R4, which allows for a mix of lower and medium density forms of residential housing types. The proposal supports the goals and objectives of the municipal development plan, which is to facilitate a diverse range of housing opportunities that support the needs, income levels, and preferences of all current and future residents, support increased housing diversity across the community, integrating various housing forms in all neighborhoods, and the city is striving to deliver a housing mix across the community as identified in the 2013 Housing Needs Assessment. The street is a public area, however, both the existing development and the proposed development do comply with the land use bylaws parking requirements. There was quality of life concerns, so issues with vehicles backing into driveways and leaving headlights on, which shine directly into the home. And the children, myself and the children, can no longer watch the fireworks at Crana Lake from my front porch due to the existing development, which completely obstructs our view. The additional development will further limit my ability to enjoy my outdoor space. Administration's response is that city bylaws do not prohibit vehicles from backing into driveways, and the R4 district does allow buildings to be up to 10 meters in height. And then there were general concerns. The city should prioritize the preservation of existing neighborhoods and promote development that is consistent with the surrounding area. So that DARP overlay does require the infill developments to be compatible with the scale and the character of the existing area. The proposal is compatible with the scale and character of the immediately adjacent development to the east. And while most DARP districts do require developments to contain certain architectural features, so that's eclectic or craftsman, Edwardian, folk, or Queen Anne elements, the central residential district does not. And the proposal complies with the requirements of that DARP overlay. So the applicants are proposing to construct 2 4-unit residential buildings, so 4plexes on the same parcel. The land use bylaw does allow for this if it's located in the R4 district, if each building contains 1 or more dwelling units, and if all buildings, structures, recreation areas, vehicle areas, landscaping, and other features have been planned as one integrated development. So you'll see here with the picture that the proposal does meet that criteria. Land use bylaw, so under section 3.33, the Municipal Planning Commission is authorized to consider and decide upon development permit applications requiring a variance if it's greater than 15%. You can decide on discretionary uses or any other application that the development officer refers to you. You can grant a variance from the requirements of the bylaw if you're satisfied that it will not result in or not comply with the requirements of the Municipal Government Act, the Subdivision and Development Regulation, the Safety Codes Act, or any other statutory plans or outline plans that have been adopted by Council. And section 473 allows the development authority to approve an application for a development permit or a subdivision, even though the proposed development does not comply with the land use bylaw, if in the opinion of the development authority, the proposed development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood, materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels, and if it conforms to the use prescribed for the subject parcel in the bylaw. Analysis, so the proposal does comply with maximum density, side and rear yard setbacks, maximum parcel coverage, parking requirements, hard surfacing, landscaping, screening, amenity areas, and the infill and building component regulations of the DARP overlay. The applicant is requesting 3 variances to the land use bylaw and requesting that 2 land use bylaw regulations be waived. So the first variance is a front yard setback variance. So this is for those verandas in the front. So the building itself is located in accordance, which is supposed to be 6 meters from the front property line. The building foundation and front attached garages are located in accordance, but the front verandas are proposed to be 5.14 meters from the front property line. So the applicants are requesting a 0.58 meter, which is a 10% front yard setback variance, to allow for the verandas to be constructed in their proposed location. Administration supports this variance request as it's minimal in nature, and the verandas are required as a private amenity area for the development. The next one is excessive repetition variance. So repetition between dwelling units within close proximity of each other, either on the same or opposite side of the street, should be avoided. Repetition includes frontage accents, roof pitches, material, and accent colors. The proposal contains the same frontage accent, roof pitches, and materials and accent colors as the development located on the immediately adjacent lot to the east. The applicants are requesting the variance as they own that immediately adjacent lot to the east, and they are purposely choosing to replicate the development as they're aiming for continuation and ultimately for both developments to look like one large development. As well, their design and curb appeal of their developments, along with the services they render as landlords, have made a positive reputation in which they wish to model and uphold. Loading space. So the land use bylaw states that a loading space should be provided for multi-residential developments. However, where dedicated spaces per unit provided in close proximity to the primary door per unit, the requirement for a loading space may be waived. So the applicants are requesting that this be waived, as the development does propose to have dedicated parking spaces that are located within close proximity to each unit's primary entry door. Administration supports the request. So you can see the primary entry door shown on the picture there, written in blue. Bicycle parking, so minimum of 5 bicycle stalls is required with 1 rack. The proposal actually does have 8 storage areas where bicycles can be stored. The applicants are requesting that the requirement be waived as the bicycles can be stored indoors. So tenants of the units with garages are expected to store the bicycles in the garage, and tenants without the garages have an outdoor accessible heated storage room. And you can see it on the side picture there, kind of circled in green. So that's for their exclusive use. And the immediately adjacent development to the east also requires bicycles to be stored in the garages and storage rooms. It seems to be working well. Therefore, administration does support that this request be waived. So administration has considered the requirements of the R4 district in the land use bylaw, reviewed the application and visited the property, is of the opinion that the variances should be approved as they are minimal in nature and therefore would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and recommends support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senior Development Officer Kirk. I appreciate that. My feelings on this is that I think it's, well, it mirrors the one directly beside it. And I believe there was similar issues with that development also, was there not?
So the development next door did need a minor front yard setback variance. It also had the requirement for a loading space waived, and the bicycle parking came afterwards because they did realize that having the rack out there was causing issues. So slight variances.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and I don't, well, we get to see it all the time here, and I think it's working out quite well for an R4 district. My opinion of this is that that's why we have R4 districts. And this isn't an R1 area that you're trying to change to R4 to do this development. This is what R4 is all about. So I certainly would support this, and I appreciate the continuity actually of the 2 units, that they'll look the same. I think that's a good feature. Any other comments from the members? Member Kintz?
Thanks, Chair Gullickson. My one question I have is the 10% front yard setback. Is planning and development able to approve that setback without coming to municipal planning?
Yes, that is correct. We could approve that variance, but because there was multiple, we brought them all forward to you.
Thank you for that. Anything else?
Yes, Chair Gullickson.
Yeah. Member Contenting?
Yeah, I just, being that we already have a model that's there and it's been proven to look well, it really enhances the area, I believe. Doesn't seem to be of any concerns that have been brought up. And I think the requests are minor in nature, so I would support this.
Thank you for that. Now, did the owners want to speak at all? No, you're good. Okay, anyone else in the, no? Okay. Oh, yes. Would you like to say a few words? We'll give you an opportunity here. That's not always this case, but. And please state your name, please. and use the speaker. No, just press it, and once it comes on, you'll be fine, Sherry.
Hi, my name is Sherry O'Meara. I live directly across the street from the original development here, and I'm the person who submitted the letter in opposition. So I would like to say, first of all, that although you did only receive one letter in opposition to this development, I'm not the only person in the neighborhood who is in opposition. In the words of my neighbor, what's the point of going? Because they're going to do what they want anyways. But I mean, I disagree with that. So here I am, because if I'm not going to make my complaint, then, you know, I don't get to say anything about it after the fact. So I would say I'm not in favor of this development as it stands. I don't have a problem with multifamily developments. There's several on the street already. I understand that there is a lack of rental units in the city of Lacombe, and we need to increase the amount of rental housing that's available to people. I'm not sure this is the type of rental housing that we need to increase. I would like to maybe ask the commission or state that the last time this proposal came forward for the initial development, the city planner stated that they considered this to be overdevelopment for the area, but that it was covered by the zoning laws. And I have to wonder, if it was considered overdevelopment the first time around, why doubling up that development is not considered overdevelopment today. Also, since that last development was put in, there's 2 other houses on this same block that have been knocked down. And if you look at the size of the hole that's there, I can only assume that is also another large multifamily development going in there. And I wonder at what point our block reaches an adequate density for the city of Lacombe. In regards to the variance requests, the setback, I personally think was a bad idea the first time around. Everybody knows that the majority of people in this area are driving large SUVs and trucks, and the current setback they have on that development is not large enough to fit those types of vehicles. So they've had to put up signs saying small car only in their parking, which means that people in their large trucks have to park on the street. As for the width, like, I know you're saying it's a minor thing to add an extra 2 meters of concrete, but when I'm looking out my window at it, it's not a minor thing. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate your input. Welcome, Member Creasy. So, any comments regarding this application? Okay, thank you. Anything else from the commission? No?
Through the chair,
Yes, Member
I'd just like to thank
Contenti.
you for that. You are absolutely correct. Unless someone steps up, and you know, that's what this is about, is bring your voice and your concerns, and that's what this commission is here to do, is to hear those. So thank you for that.
Member Creasy.
Thank you. Just wondering if we could have some input from administration regarding the last comment regarding densification and a previous application, and what was stated there, and why that either does or does not apply today.
So through the chair to Member Creasy, development is fluid and it is open to the interpretation of the development officer handling that file. We do have our land use bylaw, but there are interpretive variations of the land use bylaw. In this case, the land use bylaw does lay out density requirements, parcel coverage requirements, and as Jen has laid out, all of the setbacks and those kinds of things. In this case, there's no variance required for the densification. We allow up to 55 units per hectare, I believe, in the R4. It's somewhere in that ballpark. Don't exactly quote me on off the top of my head. So in this case, where we are today in 2024 and trying to meet the requirements of our municipal development plan in addition to the land use bylaw, the development team today did not deem it an overdevelopment of this site.
Thank you. And just a follow-up to that, if I may.
Absolutely.
There was also a question as to the desire for development, how much believe how much more can this block have? Do you have an indication of the units that are on that block now and what theoretically could be added? Or is that unfair to ask at this time?
Through the chair to member Creasy, that's definitely not information we have prepared ahead of time. We'd have to look at the specific zoning of each parcel and the density maximums for each of those zonings and the size of those parcels in order to give you an accurate number, which we just don't have that information on hand.
And that's fair. I just think that it's important for everyone to understand that it does meet the bylaws that's currently laid out now. And in fact, there probably, I don't know for certain, but there probably is room for more development there. And that's something that the public should be aware of. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Creasy. Anything else?
Not for me, thank you.
Good. Everybody's good? Nobody wants to make a motion? Member Contenti?
Yes, to the chair, I'd like to make a motion
Thank you.
that the Municipal Planning Commission approve the development permit for the multiple housing development and with variances and waivers to be located at 5432 55th Avenue, lots 7, 8, block 3, plan 4880R, zoned residential mixed district R4. The variances and waivers include the following: the 0.058 meter 10% front yard setback variance, a 2.19 meter 22% driveway width variance, a variance to allow excessive repetition between dwelling units within close proximity of each other, and a waiver to the requirements for a loading space, and a waiver to the requirements for a bicycle rack. And the approval is subject to the conditions noted in this recommendation.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion? No? Are you aware of all the conditions that are on here? Okay. And I believe, how many are there? There's like 20, 26, 28? Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you for that. All right, all those in favor? Approved. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to our second item is garden suite with a variance, and again, senior development officer.
Thank you,
You're on a
Chairperson
roll.
Gullickson. All right, item 4.2, we're looking at a garden suite with a variance at 5621 53rd Avenue. A garden suite means a separate, subordinate, and self-contained dwelling unit with a cooking facility located on a residential parcel within an accessory residential building. This includes a tiny cottage or a house, tiny house. All right, so the property is zoned residential, single and semi-detached district. It's R2. It provides an area for residential development in the form of detached and semi-detached dwellings and compatible uses. This property is also located in the downtown area redevelopment plan, specifically the central residential district, where the general purpose is to regulate the development of major additions and new infill in a manner that is compatible with the scale and character of the existing area. Administration supports the application. So the commission's decision on this one is a discretionary use development permit being the garden suite and with a 2 meter 38% height variance. So during the neighboring consultation process, it was noted that the development also required a 4% variance to the number of suites allowed within a block. However, upon further review, it was determined that the variance actually wasn't required. So the land use bylaw does permit 12% of a block to contain suites, but it also states that that calculation is to be rounded up to the next whole number. So the block in question had 18 parcels, and therefore the block is permitted to contain a total of 3 suites. If approved, this would be the 3rd suite on the block. 24 property owners were notified. We received 4 responses in opposition at the time of writing the report, and 2 more were submitted after the report was written, also in opposition. So there's height concerns of visual obstruction, sunlight blockage, and privacy concerns. Administration's response is that the land use bylaw states that a garden suite shall not be taller than 9 meters, but shall be a minimum of 0.5 meters shorter than the principal dwelling. So the principal dwelling is 5.7 meters in height, and therefore the garden suite should be 5.2 meters in height. The garden suite is proposed to be 7.2 meters and therefore requires that 2 meter 38% height variance. There were concerns regarding traffic and parking. The area already contains busy roads. There'd be increased alley traffic. And is parking with a portion of the vehicle protruding into the back lane acceptable or legal? So administration's response is that the garden suite is proposed to be contained within the second story of a detached garage. Tenants will utilize the garage for parking. The structure is proposed to be located 5 meters from the rear property line, which can accommodate parallel parking. The land use bylaw requires a parking stall to be 2.7 meters wide by 5.5 meters long. So therefore the vehicles should not protrude into the back alley if they're parked parallel. And if it does take place, though, it can be enforced under the city's traffic bylaw, as you're not allowed to take up the alley for parking. There were noise concerns about another suite means more people, pets, vehicles, and noise. So noise issues are enforced under the City of Lacomb's Community Standards bylaw. There's setback concerns. So the proposal shows a 5 meter rear yard setback and doesn't meet the minimum rear yard setback requirement of 7.5 meters. So section 911(8) of the land use bylaw states that a garden suite shall be considered an accessory residential building, which requires 0.9 meter side and rear yard setbacks. The development proposes a 5 meter rear yard and therefore exceeds the land use bylaw's requirements. There's intensification concerns. So the neighbors don't agree that adding more buildings to the house with more people is a good idea for the area. And the maximum number of suites has been reached and doesn't need to be exceeded in the area. So the proposal does support the goals of the municipal development plan, where we want to facilitate a diverse range of housing opportunities that support the needs, income levels, and preferences of all current and future residents. We want to support increased housing diversity across the community, integrating various forms in all neighborhoods. And the city is striving to deliver a housing mix across the community as identified in the 2013 Housing Needs Assessment. And the block is permitted to contain a total of 3 suites. So this one would be the third if approved. All right, the applicant is proposing a 2-bedroom garden suite on the subject parcel. The land use bylaw allows properties in the R2 to contain 1 garden suite as a discretionary use per parcel. Under section 3.33, MPC is authorized to consider and decide upon development permit applications requiring a variance of greater than 15%, discretionary uses, or any other application that the DO refers to the commission. Section 487, and MPC can grant a variance to the requirements of the bylaw if they're satisfied that the variance will not result in a development that does not comply with the requirements of the Municipal Government Act, the Subdivision and Development Regulation, the Safety Codes Act, or any other applicable statutory plan or outline plans that have been adopted by council. And under section 473, MPC can approve a variance if they feel that it would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood, would not materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels, and if it conforms to the use prescribed for the subject parcel in the bylaw. Analysis. So this proposal complies with most of the land use bylaw regulations as well. So it complies with maximum parcel coverage, maximum density, size, setbacks, parking, the amount of suites allowed within a block, and the dark overlay, central residential district. Garden suites are considered to be accessory residential buildings, and therefore the structure is not required to contain certain heritage architectural elements. However, it will be required to have exterior finishes that match or complement the primary building in color, and that would be a condition of the development permit. While the proposal complies with most regulations, the applicant is requesting that height variance. So again, this is where the land use bylaw is saying that they want the garden suite to be 0.5 meters shorter than the principal house. The principal house is a little bit older, and so it's not as tall as you might see as a newer home today. And so it is asking for that 2 meter 38% height variance. And administration has considered the requirements of the R2 district, visited the site, reviewed the application against the land use bylaw, and feel that the variance should be approved as it's minimal in nature and wouldn't unduly interfere with amenities of the neighborhood or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and recommend that the variance and the development permit be approved. Thank you, and the applicant is here today.
Thank you for that, Senior Development Officer Kirk. Appreciate that. I have no problems with the garden suite. I mean, it is a little bit high, but I think that can be worked around. I do have a problem with the variance in the back. I think it's too tight. There is one development I see almost daily, and I think it's a real problem. So I have an issue with that. But I think the garden suite itself would be fine, in my opinion. But I'd like to see it moved farther back to meet the requirements, the 7 meters. Any other discussion? Oh, yes.
Sorry, if I may just cut in, there's no rear yard setback variance being requested. They actually exceed the setback. So it only has to be located 0.9 meters from the rear property line, and they're proposing 5 meters. So they're set
Because,
forward.
well, even with the garage there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't like it.
Yeah, accessory buildings only
I
have to
don't
be
like it at all.
0.9.
I see one every day and I think it's terrible, but anyway, okay, so I don't have to worry about that one, but actually the height variance, so really it's only, but a half a meter out, is that correct?
2 meters
It's
higher
2 meters higher than
than the house.
the 2 meters higher than the house, and it was supposed to be
0.5 meters shorter.
Okay, so it's 2 meters, so it's actually 2.5 meters higher?
Sorry, yeah, to the chair. So it's 1.5 meters higher than the house.
Okay,
It's 2 meters higher than the
Okay.
requirement.
good, thank you. Any other oh, Member Creasy.
Well, with respect to the height variance portion, I mean, I'm in favor of this variance simply because without it, it eliminates the possibility for a second story for the garden suite itself. And I like the idea of having the extra parking down below. I think this is something that we actually may need to address in our overall plan, because I can foresee this being an issue on many properties. And in a normal situation, yes, the half a meter less is great if you've got a 2 or 2.5 story Victorian style home on some of these properties. But if you don't, theoretically, it eliminates you from having this type of a structure, which I think is a mistake. So I do think that we have some work to do with our bylaws as well, and we'll be supporting this application as it stands, despite the rear yard setback.
Thank you, Chair, or not Chair Creasy. You're Member Creasy tonight. Yes, Member.
Yes, thank you
Contenti.
through the chair. Yeah, I agree that height, like this is an older home where you're like 2 feet or 1.5 feet out of the ground. Looks probably has window wells because it's that type of property. So the overall height is now probably 2-3 meters or more less than the standard type home that's being built now. So I don't see it as an excessive that way. It may look a little odd because of the older house the way it is now, but I don't think it's excessive in its nature.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Nope. Member Creasy? No?
Looking for a motion.
Well, your light's on.
With today, to be honest with you,
Yeah, maybe not.
I was just looking for my correct wording. I would like to make a motion, Chair Gullickson, that the Municipal Planning Commission approve the development permit for a garden suite with a 2 meter, which is a 38% height variance, to be located at 5621 53rd Avenue of Lot 11, Block 26, Plan RN1E, zoned residential semi and single detached district R2, with the following conditions. I believe there are 12 with 5 letters afterwards, or 5 sections afterwards for notes. And I don't believe that we have asked if our proponent is aware of all of those. I'm assuming you do not want me to read each of them off?
No. Thank you, Member Creasy. I will ask the question now, though. Are you aware of all the conditions that apply to this application? Hey, can you move the building back a little bit farther just for me? Just for me. We don't need you to speak it. Well, you don't have to just for me, trust me. It'd be nice, but. Yeah.
Can I still change it somehow?
Actually, you can go to the 1.9, correct?
Through the chair to the
Yeah.
applicant, you can revise your plans and we can approve them as revised as long as no further intensification or lesser setback is being proposed. So yeah, but you also don't have to.
The one advantage to that, of course, is that there would be no parking in the back then, right? There would be just drive into the garage. And to me, that's better than what's there proposed. That's just me personally. You certainly meet all the requirements for that, even though I didn't think you did, but you do. And so you don't have to move it, but you could. So we have a motion on the floor, and any other further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question then. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
He's a much tougher chair than our regular one.
So are you up again? Did you get to do it all?
We actually do not have a summary to provide at this
No
point.
summary.
We're waiting on appeal periods to lapse before we can update you. So
Okay, so nothing there. Thank you. So any other discussion from the commission at all? Anything? No? So we'll just talk about our next meeting then. It's October 2nd. I understand there is at least one,
two
two
applications.
applications. Okay, well, good. And hopefully we will see you there. We hope.
So to be clear, I will not be here.
Okay, so that's two. Yeah. We have no idea on Councillor Ross. I will be there and our member Kent will be there. So we do need Councillor Ross. So, okay, you have to double check with him, I guess, to see.
So to be clear, Councillor Ross did let me know that he would not be attending today. And I would have brought that forward had I been.
Turned out fine. So, no further discussion? And no? Can I get a motion?
Chair, I move the meeting be adjourned.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We are done.